Riker was always kissing somebody on Star Trek The Next Generation, wasn't he? And it's no different for this episode, called The Offspring. It's episode number 64, and it originally aired on March 10th, 1990. It was written by Renee Echeverria and directed by Riker himself, Jonathan Frakes. Now, this episode begins after returning from a cybernetics conference in which Commander Data basically locks himself in the lab for a long period of time, and sometime later he invites LaForge, Troy, and Wesley to view his new creation, which is an android named Lal. Now, while at the conference, Data learned of a submicron matrix transfer technology, and he used the technology to transfer his programming into Lal's positronic brain. So Data has now become a father, creating another sentient being just like himself. Now, Captain Picard is less enthusiastic about this, and he wonders if Data is ready to accept responsibility for this new life, and knows that Starfleet will have some concerns as well. In fact, Admiral Haftel contacts Picard and worries that Data won't raise Lal properly, and that she will be mentally damaged in some way during this process. Haftel decides to rendezvous with the Enterprise, actually, and interview her, and he finds her... If he finds her lacking, Haftel says that he has the authority to take Lal back to a cybernetics lab. Now, Lal leaves the meeting confused and afraid, realizing that Haftel wants to separate her from her father, and she begins experiencing genuine fear at the thought of leaving the Enterprise, something, of course, that Commander Data was never able to do. Now, this quote-unquote malfunction of emotion causes Lal to return to Data's lab, as Lal was programmed to return there whenever there was some kind of a malfunction. But by the time Haftel, Picard, and Data arrive at the lab, Lal is barely functioning, and her positronic brain has suffered a major breakdown. And Data works furiously to save her, with Haftel even assisting, but cannot do it. And unfortunately, in the end, Lal thanks Data for her life and expresses her love for him, but she is not going to make it, and she experiences complete neural system failure. And as a final attempt to keep Lal from passing into oblivion, Data transfers her memories into himself. And that's the end of the episode. Now, Michael Okuda really believes that this episode, and really the one before it, Yesterday's Enterprise, started really the renaissance of Star Trek The Next Generation, where the quality of episodes just stepped up to a whole new level from here on out. And I can really see that being the case. There's a really good argument for that with this one. And Michael Piller really enjoyed this too, and he felt that this was the perfect show to follow Yesterday's Enterprise, because it's a totally different kind of episode, but has some great performances in it, and of course it saved money from Yesterday's Enterprise, this being what they call a bottle show, meaning the story was only on the Enterprise, and it didn't require any makeup for any other aliens or other planets and such. However, having said that, the makeup for Lal was quite extensive, especially in the early part of the story, where Lal has not yet chosen a gender, and they actually hired an actor, and they required extensive amount of makeup, and they actually had to have people come in the shower with him and scrub all that makeup off because there was so much on there. And he wasn't able to use the bathroom, he wasn't able to eat, not really do anything, so that particular actor really dogged it out for this particular episode, so kudos to him. And great acting also by Haley Todd, who played the female version of Lal. And as you can see in this picture, she's giving Jonathan Frakes a kiss after observing in 10 Forward people kissing for the first time, and Guinan kind of teaching her the ropes of social interaction. So that was a really fun scene, and a good one too, because Frakes, of course, directed this episode, so the storyline for the episode was that Riker was away on personal leave, and he was just returning, so he had no idea that Data had a daughter, walks into 10 Forward and starts talking to Lal, saying, "You're new around here," and she says yes, and she gives him a kiss like that. So I thought that was a pretty funny scene of this episode. But there are lots of little fun things that you see. Data learning, or teaching Lal to learn all the nuances of what it is to interact with others, even blinking, which I think is interesting. Although if you notice in this episode, even before Data teaches Lal to blink, Lal does blink several times before he teaches her. Of course, as an actress, it's hard to stop from doing that, but that's a little oversight that I noticed. But overall, this is a great episode. The only person who really had a problem with it was Melinda Snodgrass, who was on the writing staff, and she felt that it was fairly obvious, and she said it was tired and stupid and didn't want to do it. She said that it had a lot to do with Measure of a Man, and she didn't think they needed to do something like that again. And it does cover a lot of ground of Measure of the Man, of what really makes somebody a life and what does it mean to be human. And that I don't personally think that has to just be in one episode. That's a constant theme of Data, and this is really a Data episode. So I really enjoyed this. And another thing that I really enjoyed about it is just Jonathan Frakes' strong desire to direct. This was his very first episode that he ever directed. And Rick Berman said, well, you need to go to school, so to speak, for this. And he had about 300 hours in the editing room and on the dubbing stage, and he wanted to learn every nuance of it, studied what other directors were doing. And so Jonathan Frakes really went to work before he even directed this episode, and spent a lot of time in addition to playing Commander Riker. So hats off to him, and he really paved the way for a lot of the other actors to direct. And of course, Frakes did a lot of other episodes besides this, and went on to direct 2 of the feature films of Next Generation. So obviously, he did a great job over the years, and the actors liked having him as well because he understood where they were coming from, too. Other than that, I'm curious to hear what you guys feel about this episode. I really enjoyed it, obviously, but comment below. Tell me what you think, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks, guys.